And please put on your mask, your blindfold. As always, check that your head is balanced comfortably between your shoulders, that your torso is balanced on your hips, not leaning too far forward or too far back. Checking 4 areas of tightness that we're unclenching the jaw, unclenching the pelvic floor, unclenching our hands, and then wiggle your toes a little bit so that our feet don't feel clenched or tight. If we're feeling excess pressure on the feet or ankles, could mean that we're still leaning too far forward and pressing down on the legs. We really want our body weight to be supported by whatever we're sitting on, whether it's a cushion or a chair or a sofa, that our gravity is descending straight down into the earth. Checking our eyes, leaving them open if they prefer that, or letting them close if that's easiest. Checking our shoulders, that they're not tight by our ears, but they're hanging loosely. Softening the heart, the chest, the upper back. And finally, softening the belly by taking a deep breath in, feeling the belly expand, and as we exhale, the belly collapses just a little bit. Let's do 3 more breaths like that, nice and deep. In and out. In and out. In and out. And then breathing normally. Still feeling the belly moving on every inhale. We place our attention on the texture, the sensation of the breath entering the nose or mouth or both, entering our body, and then the feeling of it leaving the body. We breathe in, and as we breathe out, we allow our body to loosen, to become heavier, softer. We surrender to gravity, feeling our soft tissues hanging off the skeleton, yet we're still upright, either because of our spine supporting us or because we're leaning back on a chair. But our soft tissues feel heavier and more relaxed with every breath. And I'll be silent now for the next 10 minutes or so while you continue resting your attention on the sensation of the breath coming and going, and letting your mind and thoughts do whatever they do in the background. going to transition our attention from the breath to a contemplation on a cognitive distortion known as catastrophizing. This can occur in different ways, and you'll choose the pattern that you may have encountered in the past. One is assuming the worst is going to happen in a particular situation. And this could arise as thinking during meditation when we're worried about something, maybe an event we're going to, or a task we have to accomplish, or a conversation we have to have with someone, and we're trying to meditate, but we're instead having a nightmare in our imagination, assuming the worst possible outcome, how bad it could go. And perhaps it doesn't occur in meditation, but occurs in your daily life. So in that case, you can think of an example where you have done that, assumed the worst. Can you remember an example like that? And can you remember what actually happened? Can you find evidence against your ability to predict the outcome of events? Evidence that the worst didn't happen? Can you think of 2 or 3 different events where you assumed the worst possible case scenario and something better than that happened? So I'll be silent for a few moments. See if you can think of 2 or 3 events that you really thought were going to be the worst possible outcome, and they weren't. And if you recently or even today have a thought pattern where you're assuming the worst during meditation, what is it that you're assuming is going to occur? And can you identify it, that you're using a pattern called catastrophizing, just automatically, without thinking too much about it, automatically assuming the worst possible outcome? What is that scenario in your mind? The other way to think of this is, what are situations where you find yourself thinking, what if, that phrase, what if, and always towards the negative. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if the worst possible outcome happens? What if? What if? Can you think of a thought pattern, a daydream or day nightmare, a fantasy in which you are constantly repeating or wondering, what if? See if you can think of one. Perhaps it's a thought about your long-term future. It could be about a relationship, it could be a financial issue, it could be an issue about your home, about someone you care about. What if this? What if that? What are some of those worst possible outcomes you worry about? So now pick one of those scenarios that you thought of, something that you think about the future, something that comes up regularly during meditation, something that you worry about consistently, not during meditation, but in daily life. Pick the one that's most upfront for you, most present for you. And ask yourself this question: how good can it get? How good can it get? And imagine the best possible outcome. A realistic one, of course, but something that could actually occur. What is the best possible ending or conclusion to this thing you've been worrying about? So for the next few moments, try fantasizing about the best possible outcome. How good can it get? If it's about a conversation you need to have with someone, an interaction of some type, sometimes we find it hard to imagine how good it can get because we think we can read their mind and predict the future, that we know exactly how they'll respond. And that prevents us from fantasizing about the best possible outcome. So just step over that tendency to think you know how they're going to behave, that you know how they think all the time. That's another distortion called mind reading. So we're just including that here. What if you could pretend that you have no idea how they'll respond and that you're willing to be surprised? And you're especially willing to be surprised if they were to respond in the best possible way. So now again, ask yourself, how good can it get? And try and imagine the best positive outcome. How does your body feel now as you replay the best positive outcome, this scene in your mind, this scenario? Notice how your body and mind feel, how they respond as you focus on imagining the best possible outcome. And now let's choose something you worry about for the long-term future, perhaps related to retirement, to health, to money, to loved ones, to the state of the world. Pick a specific issue that you worry about. When we worry about this issue, it's as if we know it's going to happen. We don't even think about all the steps that are going to be necessary for the worst case scenario to happen. We just jump to the conclusion, skipping over everything that would need to happen in order for this outcome to occur. Therefore, we can do the exact same thing when imagining the best possible outcome. If we're willing to skip all those steps of what would need to occur for the worst to happen, let's skip all those possible and necessary steps for the best outcome to occur and just focus on the outcome. So for the next few moments, please imagine how good can it get with your specific future scenario that you worry about. Fantasize freely, how good can it get? Notice how your body and mind feel, what emotions come up by redirecting your mind in this way, focusing on the best possible outcome instead of the worst possible outcome. So keep holding your imagination this way and see how your body responds. Now we're going to let go of this storyline, let go of this exercise, but keep in mind, keep in your body the positive sensations that occurred in your body and mind. Don't cut that off, but we're going to move our attention back to the feeling of the in-breath and the out-breath. And to help maintain those good feelings in the body, we'll add the step of smiling gently, putting a smile on our face, to support whatever good feelings occurred when we were imagining how good it can get. We'll continue practicing this way till the end of the session. And if your mind returns to those scenarios, just let them go, let them flow in the back of your mind, but return most of your attention to the sensation of the breath. And this concludes our practice.